Hi, this is Rachel Lee Lasik of Sotheby's International Realty and the Lasik Group, and we are here for an episode of Delivered, which is our weekly newsletter. And we have our team here. We have Christian Musaraka and Jenny Leonard. And today we have a very special guest and a very dear friend, colleague, and associate of mine, Pamela Austin.
Hello, everyone.
So Pam, I wanted to say that thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. And just so everybody knows, Pamela is the Senior Project Manager of Development for McCaffery. And McCaffery's been pretty big in the news with our strip district development called The Terminal. But first and foremost, let's introduce Pam and say hello. Everyone say hi.
Hi, Pam. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I just wanted to, introduce you and say thank you for coming again. And then, let's talk a little bit about how you moved to Pittsburgh, when you moved here, what brought you here.
Sure. So I was working on our project. We did the cork factory, and then we followed it up with a residential project called Lot 24. So I was going back and forth between Pittsburgh and Chicago, which was my home at the time, working on that project. And during the time that I was working on that, I was introduced by a colleague at McCaffery to a lovely man who lives here in Pittsburgh, and we started dating. And so I was working on a project also at the time in Chicago that the Children's Memorial Hospital redevelopment. And once the pre-development work was completed, I had an opportunity to move to Pittsburgh, and I seized the opportunity because we just responded to the request for proposal for the produce terminal. So the timing seemed aligned, and so I took that opportunity and came here about 6 years ago.
Great. Christian.
Hey, so thank you for coming. Pam, I had a chance to look at your bio on LinkedIn, and I noticed that you have some design sensibilities. So where do you draw your inspiration from when you're as a project manager and then dealing with the blueprints and then transitioning into, artist renderings and the final product?
Sure. Well, everywhere is kind of the answer. I love to travel, so I'm always taking pictures and looking at, what other people do elsewhere, because, we should always seek inspiration from different places. So I also, read a lot of trade magazines. I think we all, as professionals need to stay up on, the latest and greatest and best practices. So we're always reading. I have some fun things in my feed, like Architectural Digest, which I look at daily, which is just a visual treat for me. I take a lot of pictures. So wherever I'm walking around, I take photos, whether it's the patina on a bridge or the faded murals on the buildings in the strip district or nature. But I'm always looking at, textures and colors and other buildings. And I also like to do a lot of research. So, and particularly when we're looking at our projects and trying to market them or brand them, I like to look at the history of a site. So, we get a lot of information through our desktop environmental work that tells the history and shows all the Sanborn maps. So that tells me a lot about like what used to be there, and that can sometimes serve as the groundwork for what can be there in the future. So that's fun.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jenny?
And Pam,
Yes.
just knowing that there is a artistic component to your work, and we know that on a bigger scale project, a lot of times it takes some additional minds to come together to develop the project. So I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how many people are on your team and what the role and dynamics of that team is like.
Sure. So I always like to use a sports analogy. I'm kind of the quarterback of the team, and then I have all of my specialists. So, they have running backs and wide receivers. I have, financial analysts and my accounting team and my leasing team, my managing director of property and construction management, who has more of an architectural and construction background. We have 4 different offices at McCaffery. So we have one in Denver, Chicago is our headquarters, Pittsburgh, and Washington, D.C. So even though there are only 2 members of my team here, myself and Desiree De Lucente, my project manager of construction, I'm supported by a very broad team of about 14 people across our DC, Chicago, and Pittsburgh offices. So it's a big net of people to do these 2 large projects that we have going on right now in the Strip District.
Awesome.
So when I hear you talk about, being your reference to sports, I feel like if the Pittsburgh Passion's looking for a quarterback, you're the new you're the new it girl for the Pittsburgh Passion.
Well, when I came from Chicago, we're always looking for a quarterback, so it comes naturally to me.
Well, I think that's all great, and it's a lot of support and it's a lot of teamwork, when you're working on a project that's massive. And I totally understand, teamwork makes the dream work, as they say, not to be.
Yeah, and I forgot the very important part of our team is marketing. We didn't even mention marketing, so that's a big component, especially right now as you're drawing near to the end of a project and trying to think of ways to integrate it into the community. So thanks for that reminder.
Sure, and your marketing has been actually really, really great. I've been, of course, following you guys and get your emails for the terminal, and we're patiently awaiting some announcements on who the tenants are. So looking forward to that.
Yes.
So just following the social media posts and the progress of our construction updates is always really important. So I'm glad to see that you guys post that as well. And then I have to ask, and I know a lot of people probably have been asking, how you're doing, what's going on, what challenges have you been faced with, but how do you thrive amidst the chaos in this pandemic?
Well, technology has obviously been very helpful. We've all, as a team, learned how to use a lot of new things to interact. So we have company-wide Zoom-style meetings. We have GoToMeeting where we can interact and share files. But our work continues, even though the construction has been shut down by the governor. Our teams are still meeting just as we always have, virtually, with our architect and our general contractor. Checking on the supply chain to see if there's any impact, with materials that we've selected, things like that. We had some work that I've been able to progress during this time, things like our signage packages, ordering the furnishings and like you said, working with the marketing teams. So there's still lots being done. So we haven't missed a beat, luckily. Everyone's well and working together to keep the project moving so that when construction does come back online, that we're ready to go.
Well, that's great. What's one thing that you have found yourself doing more of now that there's a little bit of time available in the day that you haven't done before, personally?
Well, I think Kristen knows the answer is going to be cooking. I've always liked to cook. But I think it's everyone turns to something that's kind of their security blanket when there's uncertain times. And I'm a nesting pro. So I've been cooking and, choosing paint colors and ordering wall covering samples and doing some house projects that I kind of put on the back burner. So those 2 things particularly.
Well, it sounds like we all kind of have that common thread of a desire for cooking and just enjoying that, because I know it's very therapeutic for me. Maybe we can have a little bit of a cooking party when this is all said and done, get together and see who can come up with what, and maybe have a little contest of sorts.
Well, and my boyfriend is a owner of a life essential business, so he's been working every day for over 3 weeks without a day off. So I think the cooking part also is kind of my way of keeping him healthy and showing my love for him, because I don't get to see him a lot. So it has a dual purpose, if you will. We both get something out of it.
Please show our utmost thanks to Mike for that.
Thank you. Yeah, he's being interviewed today. He's doing Feed the Need for the greater Pittsburgh Food Bank. So he will be interviewed at 4:43 on KDKA. So awesome. We're both doing interviews today, doing our part.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Pamela. We really appreciate you popping by and learning a little bit more about you and the project. And we really look forward to seeing you in person and having some drinks on that fabulous outdoor cocktail area back there.
Yes, and on the stairs of the produce terminal when it's done, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's clink some glasses and pop some bottles of champagne.
Sure.
All right.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you
me.
guys so much. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back in touch soon. Thank you.